So workout wise, because I want to make sure we have enough time to actually get into like the workouts. But before we get it, just briefly, are your workouts now substantially different than in the off season, or did you keep them relatively similar?
They are different, substantially different as an eye of the beholder. But I, I can just give you some quantitative differences. I
Mm,
was up around in terms of fractional sets. So this is counting a press as half a set for triceps,
right.
things like that. I was getting into the 25 to 35 sets per week per muscle group at the peak of my volume in the off season.
Wow.
Now I am around 18 to 24 sets per muscle group.
Okay. And this is
And I
across 5 workouts per week?
I train daily. It's the only
Daily.
way for me
Okay.
to it's actually I find it's the easiest way to do it is to get in a 45 to 60-minute workout daily.
Okay.
It gives me an opportunity to walk to the gym. It gets my steps up, and yeah, I find my energy levels are more consistent, especially this deep into prep, kind of having that. Um, So yeah, the organization of it, it's a little different in prep than it was in the off season. Although I think I'm actually going to keep this organization, is I alternate a full body push with a full body pull, and then certain muscle groups I just train every day, like my calves and my middle delts, because that's worked really well, and those are the two muscle groups that have come up almost the most, and they seem to recover fast. So what that means is I will do a compound quad exercise, an isolation quad exercise, and then if I have access to it or I feel good, I'll do an adductor exercise, direct work, and then I will do two chest or pushing exercises, one tricep, and then the next day I will alternate this every day, just every single day, and then Sunday I take a an easier day, which I'll describe in a second. I do a full body pull, so I will do some type of hinge and then some direct work for glutes and or hamstrings, again, kind of based upon how I feel. When was the last time I did it? When I train adductors, I will hit the abductors or the glutes in a different way, more directly, and see how like my lower back is feeling as well. And then I will do like a horizontal variation of pulling, a vertical variation of pulling, or a pullover, and then I'll do biceps. And then I get to Sunday, and I will do a little bit of whatever I didn't do the day prior, but primarily it is a kind of easy day. I don't do any lower body work. So if I did a full body push the day prior, I will do a bit of an upper body pull, and then I will do forearms, calves, and lateral raises. So it is my quote unquote recovery day, mainly from the lower body.
Okay.
And then I will start the next week on the alternate of what I did prior. If I started last week on upper body pull, I will start full body pull. I will start this week on full body push. And that gets me to roughly 20 sets per muscle group per week. And that is what I can sustain during prep. Um,
So you're
and when I
doing
had,
almost 50%
yeah,
more than that in the off season.
yeah, I would say that range of 25 to 35 sets is skewed between it's like 25 for lower body, 35 for upper body, and then the range
Yeah.
of like 18 to 24, 25 is again lower body to upper body. Yeah.
And how different is that, let's say your off season compared to your previous off season or your off season
Pretty
going into 2023
yeah,
show?
pretty different. So the highest I got going into 2023 was about 20 sets for any muscle group. So I pushed the chips forward a good bit. And that's kind of like at the end of my 2023 prep, I was a little bit down from there, like 15 to 20 sets. And then each time I felt like I could handle more, we pushed it up a little bit, so long as I was, still progressing and still recovering. Um, and I basically got to my limit, and it involved a couple two-a-days in the off season.
This past
So
one.
yes, so there was a point in January through March where I started training. 7 to 9 days a week to get in the volume I was doing. So I would do a morning session, then I would do an evening session. I have a home gym. The YMCA is right across the street, and the AET gym that I get access to for free is a 10-minute walk.
Yeah.
And I am a professional bodybuilder trying to compete with ridiculous genetic freaks. So
Yeah.
that's the caveat I always feel like I need to state.
Sure. Yeah, I mean it's obviously an incredible amount of volume and you were pushing all of them relatively hard. So, right, like pretty much all of these work sets, we're assuming these are hard work sets, all between 0 to 2 RAR, 0 to 1 RAR. Like, where are we at with that?
Two to failure, I would say, like actual momentary failure, depending
All of
upon the
them.
movement. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And this is really important. I mentioned how I would only up the volume if I felt like my performance was going up and my recovery was there. Another key metric was that I felt like I was being honest with my RIRs and I didn't start pacing myself. That I was
Right.
not going to increase volume at the expense of not being able to maintain effort and proximity to failure. And that is besides the fact that I do have a relationship with Boostcamp. That is one of the main reasons that I put on my stories multiple times per week and sometimes the whole damn session sets
I
from my
remember
workout.
saying that. Yeah. Now, just,
Because I will immediately get a DM from somebody who's like sandbagged, or
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
your face was crunching, but the bar didn't slow down.
Right,
Um,
right.
I also have a workout partner, so I train 3 days per week with my good buddy Matt Cross. He's a lecturer like I am in the sports science department, and he's an endurance athlete, so he loves
Yeah, yeah.
pain. And the other days of the week, I train with my wife, and she knows my goals. So I regularly have trained with when I travel like professional bodybuilders, and I ask them to keep me
Totally.
honest. I'm like, what'd you think there? So if I catch my RIR slipping, then I undo the volume increase.
Has your wife ever competed?
She did. She got on stage once way back in 2011 on a
Oh,
figure show
cool.
while she was dieting down for a powerlifting meet, and she was like, "Okay, bucket list done. That's not for
Yeah,
me."
yeah, yeah. So, and I think at this level of volume, this is an important distinction. Are you're hitting a 0 RER or you're actually failing most sets to
It
get the
totally
peak?
depends on the lift. So, if we're talking about a leg press, if we're talking about hack squat,
Sure.
if we're talking about RDLs, good mornings, pressing exercises that are free weights, those are typically I'm hitting a 0 RIR on my last set. Sometimes I work around that by doing so I
On
can
your
actually
last
fail.
set. So what about not last sets?
So yeah, it's so my typical bench press, like let's say I'm doing bench.
Yeah.
I will start at a 1 to 2 RIR in the first set, a
Okay.
0 to 1 RIR in the second, and then the last set will be a true 0 RIR, and then I will often do a drop set down to something I can safely fail on. So I might go from 100 to 80 to 60, and then on 60 I will keep going until it gets stuck on my chest, and then I can kind of like heave it up into the first rack position. So I will
Okay.
fail on bench
I'm
on my
glad I
last set.
clarified because I thought you had said before each set was to failure, but your each exercise gets to failure. But if you're doing, I'm guessing most of your exercises you're doing between 2 to 4 sets. So you're actually keeping maybe 1 to 2 in reserve until the last set.
Well, it's exercise specific. So I'll
Okay.
take you through we'll keep going with this full body push. Let's say I started with bench because I felt like it instead of leg press. So I finish bench. I go over to either dumbbell flies, cable crossovers, or maybe a machine press. Those are all sets to failure
Okay.
because
And
it's
it, and
safe.
these intuitive make sense, right? Obviously, the squats and the hack squats. This is what I would expect. One
Hmm.
for the audience, though, and two, because I do think at these levels of volumes, a distinction can be meaningful.
Oh, absolutely.
So it is relevant because I just other than when I worked with Steve Hall, I just never have been like a trained to 3+ RAR guy.
Hmm.
I just find that very I don't know, unsatisfying, despite whatever the science may say. But I also just think it's easier to objectively track, and yeah, there's a number of reasons that I favor training that way. But I think with how you're doing it, like you said, it can keep you honest because you're not going to start getting used to like three was a 3 or 4 or 4 or 5. It's like okay, I could do one more, I couldn't do anymore, right? And so
Yep.
I think it keeps it pretty objective. I'm amazed by because even your 2023 season, I mean, that was still relatively high volume, right? I mean, 15 to 20 sets per body part training hard is still a lot. So, anytime I talk to like you or Jeffrey Schofield or something, I always walk away thinking like, man, maybe I'm just going to try high volume again. Even though like I just obviously like I've done it before and most of my clients have seemed to respond quite well to dropping volume and all the millions of examples we've seen of that it is still pretty amazing when I see somebody who's as advanced as you to come away with like, hey, maybe some of it was retained muscle, but maybe half was actually gained muscle. I mean, it's hard to distinguish that, but some amount had to have been new muscle.
Absolutely. I think a large chunk was new muscle, which is pretty cool. Um, I think also I was actually talking about this. Cliff Wilson made a post and he was like, "Hey, listen, I just got to live with you guys. Low volume training's trash. Like I've worked with a bunch of bodybuilders. It's just not good. And the fact that you can name by name a handful of bodybuilders who are genetically gifted and in almost every case also enhanced, um, those who do low volume training and thrived on it at a high level, it indicates that it's probably not good for most people." And I came in there and I was like, so there's a lot of pushback, of course, because individual experiences color people's perception of the world, and social media is inherently curated and biased. And I was like, hey guys, here's a 2023 survey of hundreds of competitive bodybuilders across the world, enhanced and natural. And let's just look at what's the bell curve of direct sets that they do. And what covers 80% of them is 12 to 24 sets, direct sets per muscle group. So almost all bodybuilders, competitive bodybuilders, regardless of what is hot on social media or what is hot on TikTok, people who have that like skin in the game and are trying to maximize everything in the off season are doing 12 to 24 direct sets, which means fractional is probably another 30% higher than that.
Right.
So if we wanted to compare like to like, most competitive bodybuilders are probably doing 15 to 30 sets.
Yeah.
So I am only like honestly, I'm one standard deviation above that in my off season.
Eric, Jeff Nippard just put out a video where he cut his volume in half and he saw amazing progress. All right. So I don't really care what you just said because he's got 2 million followers.
Well, here's another really important thing. I'm doing, and those bodybuilders, I guarantee you probably 80, 90% of them are doing more volume than they need to progress. And I think that's another critical important thing. And in some cases, they're making a poor decision. It's just that they're doing it, right?
Hmm.
I think we need to not forget that just because that's what they're doing doesn't mean it's ideal. And there are many of them who have an unhealthy relationship with the sport and are
Sure.
doing too much. Some may say that about me, you know. Um, and I don't think that's the case, or I wouldn't be doing it. And it has clearly worked. I can be like, well, guess what? I just had my best pro debut more than I could ever anticipate. So suck it. Like it kind of like Dan John. If it worked, you're right from like a
Right,
pure
right.
coaching perspective.
Yeah.
But I don't truly believe that. Like I think, of course, there's always opportunity to optimize, and I'm always looking for ways that I could be wrong instead of right. It's the only way you grow.